G'day guys, welcome to the Process of Success podcast. I'm here with WA and Perth Scorchers Wicket-Keeper Sam Whiteman. Whitey, thanks for joining me.
No worries, mate.
I like to start these interviews. We've just had your teammate Nathan Coulton-Isle on a couple of weeks ago, and we've had Voguesy on. I like to start these interviews by getting a bit of a snapshot of your childhood and how your cricket started. You were born in the UK and you came to Australia when you were 3. What's your earliest memory of playing cricket?
My earliest memory was probably similar to most guys in the backyard, playing with Dad and my younger brother. Just used to, after school and stuff, love getting out in the backyard, and I think it's the same as most people. Yeah. Nice
one. And then did you start competitively? What age was that?
Yeah, I think it was about 7. Dad took me down to the local cricket club in Bunbury. Started playing for Marist, and I can't really remember much, obviously, at that age, but I just remember, how excited I used to get for Saturdays and, putting the whites on in the morning, going to the game in the whites, and used to love it, yeah.
Awesome. And then, so throughout that time, it was some structured sessions and then some sessions in the backyard with your brother and your dad?
Basically, yeah. It was just, lived and breathed cricket. Used to want to do it as soon as I got home from school, want to do it at lunch at school. I used to love Saturdays, so yeah, I just used to try and get as much in as I could.
Awesome. And then how did your teenage years look as you sort of got a bit older? You went to Bunbury High School here in WA. Were you training, when did you start to take it more seriously, and were you sort of training every day at some point in that time?
I wouldn't say every day, probably 3 or 4 times a week. I'd go down with Dad to the nets and just have a half an hour hit or something like that. But definitely around that age it probably got a little bit more serious. I was playing, probably juniors in the morning in Bunbury, and then I was playing seniors. I was lucky enough to play first grade at quite a young age in Bunbury, which was awesome. I was pretty much playing as a specialist keeper. I was batting 10 or 11. And I guess that really exposed me to senior cricket, which, as a youngster sort of probably wakes you up and goes, this is how you play cricket.
Awesome. And how did you come about being a keeper? Was it someone you idolised on TV, or does it... My brother, for example, started keeping when he was younger because he had cold hands, and they got asked it. What's your story with becoming a keeper?
I just remember in junior cricket where you'd rotate around the field. I used to just love keeping because you're in the game, and then you'd move to keeping and you go 45 and you wouldn't touch the ball, and then you go square leg, you wouldn't touch the ball. So I just used to want to be a part of it. And I've probably Gilly had a little bit to do with it as well. Watching Gilly on TV, whack him and then glove him, it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And then what age did you start really practicing your keeping and sort of getting some volume into that side of your game?
Probably not till I was in the State 17 squad did I ever really think about practicing keeping. I know one thing growing up, I guess keepers almost get a little bit forgotten about when they're in junior teams. The batters have the nets, bowlers bowl the nets, and then you do a group fielding where the keeper generally just stands and takes the ball. So to be honest, I never really thought about keeping much until I got a bit more serious.
And in your teenage years, or did you ever get any one-on-one coaching, either with your batting or your keeping?
Definitely not keeping. It was all pretty natural. Younger years, batting, mainly with a guy called Brett Whitaker, who used to coach Rockham Mandurah. He used to talk with batting with him a fair bit. Wasn't necessarily all technique. It was probably just back and forth talking about the game and how to get better and how to score runs. It definitely helped me while I was younger.
Awesome. And you've mentioned your dad, Brett. Who else has had a big impact on your career? Who are your mentors now, and who were your mentors when you were younger?
Yeah. When I was younger, obviously parents. I was living in Bunbury, playing in Perth, so you can imagine the hours in the car spent. And I'd be a teenager. I'd sit in the back, probably fall asleep for a few hours. Parents when I was younger, doing all that time in the car. Now, definitely Wayne Andrews. I think that was one of the best things I ever did. I think I was 19. I went down to Mulman's and approached Wayne and said, look, I'd love to do some one-on-ones. And since then, I've been hitting with him non-stop. Luckily enough, he works at the Wacker now, but that's probably definitely one of the best things I've ever done. Yeah.
Awesome. And now you mentioned when you're a kid in Bunbury playing against adults. We get questions all the time from kids who are playing against older kids or adults. What sort of, if you sort of think back to that point in time, and obviously it's a little while ago now, what sort of mindset, or was it just like an attitude of you're just really keen to learn, or did you play with quite a lot of fear against men? What advice would you give young players now in that situation?
I guess I just wanted to prove that I was good enough to play with them. I guess one thing about playing senior cricket when you're young is that just because they're young, they don't take it easy on you. If anything, they almost go harder at you. So yeah, basically, I just wanted to prove to everyone that I was good enough to play. And luckily enough, you play against senior guys, but you're also playing with senior guys, and you can learn a lot off those guys. Awesome.
It is such a great way to learn. And I do it every week, but shout out to all the parents who are listening or watching. Whitey's mentioned his parents driving him from Bunbury up to Perth, a big journey, and I know my mum and dad used to get up early and take me to my coaching before school, so thanks to all you parents. None of us would be where we are without you guys. So moving forward, you then made your debut at a young age in first grade in Wacker cricket, as you said, a 15-year-old for Rockingham Mandurah. How was that when you were sort of progressing through the grades and making your first grade debut at 15? Do you remember your first game?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it all sort of happened pretty quickly at Rockingham. Obviously, they weren't the strongest team at the time, which benefited me. I got in the first grade side pretty quickly. And yeah, I was pretty young. I was 15, and I was pretty similar. I was playing. I think first game I batted 9 or 10. And against Mount Lawley, and I was stoked to be there. Sprinted between the overs, and just loved being a part of it. Yeah.
So you were keeper?
Yeah, I was keeper. Yeah.
And did you have a bat?
I had a bat. Yeah, I think I got about 15 or 20. I think. Yeah, and I was stoked with that. Yeah.
So you weren't overawed. You were sort of just excited.
Yeah, it was obviously a bit daunting playing first grade at that age. But you rely on your teammates, don't you, to get you through and look after you a bit.
Awesome. And was it about that point where you started to think, I'm quite good here and maybe I could make a career out of this? Or was it earlier, or was it not till a bit later on?
Probably around that stage, yeah. You play that level, and back then you play with guys in and out of the WA team. And I think in my second game I played against Justin Langer. I was batting and look back and he's standing at first slip. It's pretty cool, yeah. And you think you're playing against those guys, you're actually good enough to maybe one day be able to take that next step.
Awesome. And now, when you were 18, you moved from Bunbury up to Perth.
Yep.
And you left the family behind to obviously pursue your cricket dream. How was that? How did you? We have a lot of people ask us about relocating or making sacrifices. How did you find that transition?
Yeah, obviously tough, but having said that, it's only a 2-hour trip down to Bunbury if I needed to go. But I think it was just time for me to get out of Bunbury and give cricket a good crack. The Wacker was lucky enough to give me a little sponsorship, which enabled me just to work part time at the Wacker, and therefore I could just focus on a bit of training with Rockingham and have hits with guys like Wayne Andrews and stuff like that. But it was daunting, but I knew it had to be done if I wanted to make it as a cricketer.
Awesome. And in that time where you relocated, you had a bit of work, but you probably had a fair bit of free time. What did your week look like? How often were you practicing? How many hours a day were you practicing? How often were you hitting balls? Again, it's for our listeners and viewers who don't know what they should be doing. What's the sort of standard that you were doing back then?
I guess it was a bit all over the shop. I know I definitely, trained with Rockingham twice a week. I'd always get there an hour early and probably stay a little late. I was lucky enough to be part of a Wacker development squad that would train once a week, so I'd be a part of that. I'd have a hit with Wayne Andrews, so I'd probably be hitting 4 times a week. And then back then I probably wasn't into my fitness as much as I am these days, but I used to try and get a little bit of running in. But definitely that's something you learn as you get older is, looking back now, I probably wasn't training anywhere near as much as I am now.
Yeah, and you made your first class debut at 20 years old. How did that come about? Had you been dominating grade cricket or second 11 at that point, and who was the previous keeper that you then came in and replaced?
I probably wasn't dominating anything. I actually debuted as a batsman. I opened the batting. But actually, funny enough, Sean Marsh got dropped for me while Sean was going through a bit of a rough patch. But that was my first year on contract, rookie, and I was just, to be honest, I had no expectations to play. I was just happy being a part of the squad, just trying to get better. And then, I got picked to play as a bat, and I think that was the year Luke Ronke left for New Zealand, and Tom Triffett was the keeper. So, but I got a crack as a bat, and it was pretty scary. I walked out, opened the batting at the G, and Peter Siddle and James Patterson had the ball. It's pretty daunting, yeah.
Awesome, what an amazing experience. And how was it when you first got your contract and you rocked up to the WACA for the first time and you had Sean Marsh and Adam Voges and these big names? How did you find that experience? And did you think, I am good enough, or did you think I'm nowhere near these guys, or did you think I've got to work really hard to get up there? How was that?
Yeah, you definitely think you're not good enough as soon as you get in the squad, but and the same thing applies, that you just want to prove to everyone that you are good enough. Yeah, you get, I guess, a surprise about how hard the guys train. Having said that, the Warriors back in 2012 didn't train anywhere near as hard as they do now. But yeah, I just wanted to prove to everyone that I was good enough. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, just to give our listeners a snapshot, Justin Langer came in after you were playing with the squad. You were in the squad.
Yep.
What does training or your week look like now? And WA or the Scorchers have a reputation for being extremely hard trainers under JL's regime. How does it look these days?
Well, definitely when he took over, he drove a hard bargain, that's for sure. We did, I think there was 2 or 3 pre-seasons there where we did ridiculous amounts of Ks each week, like 20 or 30 Ks each week. I think now we've had a pretty similar squad for the last 4 years, so I think he cuts a little bit more leniency. But yeah, back then there's some hard running sessions, some hard camps that you think, is this really what I want to be doing?
Yeah, and there's no coincidence that WA started to have a lot more success once JL came in and instilled a really huge work ethic in everyone. So you then, sort of from your first class debut, you started to keep as well, and you had a really great run for a couple of years, and quite quickly you were on the radar of higher honours, higher selection. You were playing for Australia A. You scored 100 in 2014 against India in Brisbane. And a lot of people started to talk about you as potentially the next keeper. What was that time like? How were you feeling then?
Oh, it was all pretty exciting. I got picked for Australia A off the back of a decent season, and to be honest, I had no expectations. I was playing in a really good Australia A side like Phil Hughes, and to be honest, I had no expectations and did really well. Got 100 and batted with Mitch, and then suddenly I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I went back to WA, and there was talk about the next Test keeper, and I probably felt that pressure. I focused on playing for Australia instead of probably focusing on playing for WA, and consequences, I had a really bad year. Yeah.
Was that through reading the newspaper or reading articles or something? You just started to imagine what it could be like, and then stopped focusing on where you were at? Yeah,
definitely. I was reading a lot of stuff. And I guess I had a taste as well that I really wanted it. I probably wanted it a bit too much, which is easy to do, but you live and you learn. I think now the last year or so, a couple of years I've been injured, but just enjoying playing for WA. And JL always talks about it. If we're winning games for WA, then everyone's going to get noticed, and that's where guys go up.
Awesome. And if you look back into that period where you were doing really well and you got your 100 for Australia A, was there any sort of, you've spoken quite a lot about no expectation. Were you just going out and enjoying it, and was there anything else you can think about? I've put you on the spot here, but is there anything else you can go back into that period and think that really made an impact in why I was playing so well?
Yeah, I think definitely I've done it a few times throughout my short career, is just putting too much pressure on myself. Yeah, I think looking back, the times I do really well, like you just said, I have no expectations. I just focus on the team and focus on having fun. It's pretty simple. You put pressure on yourself, that's when you make mistakes.
Yeah, I've read a few articles about Bangers being in a similar boat. When he tries too hard, the results don't come, and when he tries to relax, the results come, and that's the same for everyone. I know that I'm the same as well. So then after that point, you injured your finger, and you had an extended period off. How did you deal with that setback? And that must have been like living a great life as a professional cricketer, sort of have that taken away from you to some extent instantaneously. How did you deal with that setback?
Oh, look, yeah, it was pretty tough. Injuring my finger at the start, I thought it was about a 3 or 4 month layoff. I had surgery, and then 3 months in it hadn't healed right, so I had another surgery, and then 3 months later it hadn't healed right, so I had another surgery, and at that stage it was sort of do or die with the finger, really. And you get a pretty dark place, and you forget how lucky you are when you're not injured, and I've played cricket since I was 7. And so to suddenly not be playing cricket at all, it's a bit of a rude awakening. And but look, yeah, that's where you rely on your family and your friends to get you through.
Yeah. So how did you stay motivated? And I asked Coates this a couple of weeks ago. He'd been through a lot as well, a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
How did you personally stay motivated to think, okay, I want to get up today and do my rehab and make sure that I'm right in 3 months or 4 months, however long, far away it might be?
To be honest, I probably struggled a bit with that. I lost a lot of motivation, especially after my last surgery. They sort of said, look, you're not going to play any cricket for about a year. I lost all motivation. I sort of thought, what's the point in going and doing a bit of fitness? What's the point in going to watch cricket and stuff like that? So I really struggled with it. But you sort of rely on other guys in similar positions. I sort of try to bounce, talk to a lot about guys like Coates, Dorf, who they've been through this a lot. So, but that's definitely one thing I've learned from is how to find some motivation. Yeah.
And so, how did you pass your time? Obviously, a finger injury is different to soft tissue or something else. So you can do a little bit of probably running or bike or whatever's needed.
Yep.
But how did you pass the time that you'd normally be investing or spending in your game and sort of recovering? You no longer have that. How did you spend your time during that time?
Fair bit of Netflix. I was, to be honest, I didn't get up to a great deal. I was sort of all over the shop. A lot of Netflix, probably a few nights out as well amongst that year. But I think the last 4 or 5 months I've really found motivation again to, you get within sight of playing again. You really want to step up and make sure you're in the right nick and give yourself every chance.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you're back playing now, and I'm sure there's big things around the corner for you. How do you now, having been through that sort of period, how do you now switch off and get away from the game? And do you have any other things that you sort of spend your time doing to try and give yourself an outlet from cricket?
That's it's strange sitting here at the moment. Season's sort of done and dusted. But normally this time of year, I'm like, oh, thank God the season's done. I can have a couple of months off. But now I'm sort of feeling like, I don't need a couple of months off. So look, I have a month off now and just relax. And then look, I'm going to go and play cricket in England. So I think it'd be silly for me not to keep playing. More time in the middle after a year's layoff is, that's gold. So I'll get over to England and see how we go.
Awesome. And now back onto the field. You've played in a lot of big matches, including Big Bash finals and playing for Australia A, etc. How do you deal with the added pressure that comes with a big game and a big crowd and lots of people watching? And while we're recording this interview, it's finals time here in WA and all around Australia. We have a lot of people saying, how do I perform in a final? How have you found leading into a Big Bash final, let's say, at the WACA, lots of pressure on? What have you done?
Nothing different. I think that's pretty important. I think just because it's a big game, there's no need to change anything. I think if you're playing finals, you're obviously doing well, so there's no need to change any sort of routine. I think I just trust the process that what I've been doing is correct, and there's no reason to change it just because it's a big game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's hugely important. Not get distracted by what's being said or how many people could be there or anything like that. Now, throughout your career, and I suppose throughout your tough times when you're injured and stuff, have you done any sort of meditation or any form of mental conditioning? Is that anything you've looked into or tried? I
did a couple of years ago a fair bit of visualisation, just especially around keeping. I used to, I think I did all this work in pre-season around my keeping, and then the first game, I dropped a catch that I shouldn't have, and I found it really hard to let go. And then therefore that affects the rest of your keeping. So I did a lot of work before games, visualising the ground and who was bowling, different sort of chances that I might get. And I found that sort of just settled me down heading into a game, and then in a game it almost felt like I'd already been there. So I've done a fair bit of work around that.
Awesome, that's so powerful, I reckon, and that's something we talk a lot about with our athletes. In that moment now, having sort of done that and learnt from that, in that moment, if you do make a mistake as a keeper, you're in
Yep.
the game all the time, and you're going to make mistakes at times, whether it's a missed stumping or a tough chance. How do you move forward and let go of that? And that's because that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. To be honest, I can let it go if I know I've done everything right off the track. If I know I've put in the hours catching, I've done a bit of visualisation, I can easily let things go. It's when you feel like you've taken a little shortcut here and there. It's just so hard to let go. But yeah, if I know I've done everything right, then I catch 50,000 balls a year. I'm going to drop a couple.
Yeah, is that something that JL tries to instill in you guys? Is about getting your process right? Because Coulter spoke about it as well a couple of weeks ago about if he bowls a bad ball or has a bad over or a bad game, if he has ticked all the boxes and knows his preparation's been great, then he doesn't mind.
Yeah, that's a big talking point with JL. He's doing every little thing right off the track. Because at the end of the day, you can't control everything that happens on the field. Sometimes your preparation's perfect, you go forward, you nick one, and that's just cricket. So yeah, that's a big thing. JL pushes. I know he did that massively throughout his career. It's just he just tick every little box off the field, and then you just sort of trust yourself that you're going to get the job done.
Absolutely, because that's the stuff you can control. You can control your preparation, your training. What happens in the game, you often don't have control over. So really, really important. Now, being a wicket-keeper batsman, you're a true all-rounder. How do you manage your training so that you get enough volume in for both keeping and batting?
Yeah, I think that's something I struggled a bit with when I was younger, was trying to find a balance. I think now, I haven't kept in a year, but the last year, a couple of years, I've just sort of tried to listen to myself, which I guess comes from probably a bit of experience of playing for a while. But sometimes my keeping's going really well, and I'll go, hang on, I'll do 20 minutes of that, and I'll move on and do have a good hour's hit. And sometimes it's the other way. So I just try and listen to myself, and yeah.
So it's more of a feel thing. What's feeling like you need to spend more time on.
Exactly. Yeah, especially when you're playing 5 Shield games in a row, you have 4 or 5 days off. If I was to go guns blazing on both things, I'd be cooked going to the next game. So it's about fine tuning what happened last game and going, hang on, I don't need to worry about keeping this week. I'll have a little catch and I'll have a big hit. And
does that, just for the keepers listening, does that go into how you keep? You might practice more up to the stumps or right up close if you're not feeling great up there, and you might go sort of spend more time back to the quicks if you're not feeling great doing that? Yeah, absolutely. If I missed a chance or up to the stumps, or not even that, even if I didn't quite feel 100% comfortable, I'd go the next week or the next chance I had to train, I'd definitely focus on that. Yeah, awesome. And now into like a pre-ball routine. As a batting coach, I talk a lot with the players I work with about having a mental routine that allows you to switch on and switch off. As a keeper, you're in the game every single ball. Do you have a mental routine while you're keeping? Yeah, I do. It's probably chopped and changed over the years, but I think keeping and batting is so similar. So I try and keep it as simple as I can. Once I'm in my squad, it's just about watching the ball. Yeah, I sort of say expect the ball and watch the ball. Especially up to the stumps, they're the ones that you miss. It's not because you're in a bad position, it's probably because you're not expecting the batsman to miss it. You go, well, it's a half volley. Oh crap, he's missed it. They're the ones you miss. So it just comes down to expect the ball and watch the ball. Awesome. And then it's obviously similar when you bat. Do you say is your trigger, is your cue words a little bit different though? Yeah, it's depending on how I'm going really as well. If I'm, if I feel like I want to flick the ball, which sometimes I really want to flick everything through the leg side. I'm thinking, play straight, watch the ball. Sometimes that's not the case, and I might feel like I'm getting out in front of me a bit. It's wait for the ball, watch the ball. Yeah. So it's just adapting to where you're at with your game. Yeah. Awesome. And now, what does your traditional preparation look like for a Shield game, and how does it then differ from a Big Bash game? Let's say you're in a block of Shield cricket. Yeah. You might have 5 days, as you said, 5 or 6 days to prepare. What does that sort of period leading into a game look like for you? Well,
2 or 3 days out, yeah, I'd normally have a really good couple of sessions. Keeping wise, I'd get a good hour or two in each session. And batting wise, it depends how I'm going. Sometimes batting, if I feel like I'm hitting the ball really well, I'll have a 20-minute hit and get out of there, because sometimes the longer you spend in the nets, you actually almost hit yourself out of form and you start overthinking things. But generally the day before the game, for a shield game, I'd have a 20-minute catch, just a little rhythm catch, and same thing with batting.
Is that off the face? Someone just hit him straight at you, or nicks, or?
Yeah, I do mainly off the face and just make sure my feet are going well, and maybe do a little bit of diving, someone underarming, and then up to the stumps, just have someone throwing just on a turf wicket with no batter, and just to get the ball in the gloves. Yeah.
And what about batting? Do you prefer flicker, bowling machine, bowlers? How do you or do you just vary?
Yeah,
all the time?
it varies. Depending on, these days the bowlers can't really bowl much before a game, so normally rely on flickers. But it's the same thing. If I'm feeling really good, I've scored some runs recently. I wouldn't have a hit for longer than 20 minutes. If I'm struggling, working on a couple of things, you could be in there for a while.
Yeah, awesome. And what about how it changes for a big bash? Do you practice more, obviously a bit more hitting, rotating, and not leaving the ball as much? It's just all sort of based around where you're going to be batting in the order as well? Yeah,
it does. It's, this last couple of years I've been opening batting. It's been pretty simple, really. My job's just been to go out and have a dip, which has been good fun. Practice against the new ball in the nets and just practice, I guess, some zones where I want to score in the game. And that's where big bash, you probably more work out who you're going to face and what they're going to try and do to you. Instead of shield cricket, a lot of guys just want to bowl top of off, occasional bouncer. So big bash is quite easy to prepare for.
Right, got a fire alarm going off here. That's not ideal, but we'll carry on. Now, you've played with and against the best players in the world. What are some of the traits you've noticed that they have in common?
I think they just work out their routine. Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. They just skills-wise routine, and then I think mental routine. Some of the guys you watch these days, Steve Smith, how he manages to focus that long, because you've been in those positions before where you get 100 and you relax a bit and you get out, or you get to 7 and you go, geez, I'm cruising here, and then you get out. Because the guys that are elite in the world, they just either push that thought deep down, and they just stick to their routine bowling.
Yeah, awesome. And now, something that I'm big on is understanding the habits and routines of successful people.
Yep.
Do you have anything that you do every morning or every evening or every week, or any habits or routines, or pre-game, pre-ball, anything with your cricket or off the field even?
Not really, no. I don't. It chops and changes. I know sometimes on the field I go through phases where I get quite superstitious. Like sometimes I went through a phase where I'd batting in between each ball, I'd pat 4 bits of grass down. I had to. So if a spinner was bowling, I'd rush down 4 bits, and I think that's where I sort of got confused between superstition and routine, which I think can easily be done. But yeah, I don't have a strict pre-game routine.
Awesome. And now, just before we finish, just a few more questions. Now, take a moment to think, but what's the best piece of advice maybe you've ever received, or something you'd give to a young aspiring cricketer your younger self?
I think we touched about it earlier, but I know I did it when I was younger, and I still do it throughout professional life, but trying too hard. I think I know when I was younger, I desperately I was playing first grade, I desperately wanted to get a contract, so I'd try too hard, and just things didn't work out. I'd put so much pressure on myself. I'd get out, I'd want to smash up the change rooms. I'd be so frustrated. I guess it's just learning that you are good enough, and if you get your training right, then you go into a game relaxed. It's so much fun.
It's trusting the process of success. Now, what's your definition of success? It's a tough one. Didn't tell me that beforehand, did you? I
Oh, look, I think success is being able to back it up time and time again, I reckon. Yeah, it's not just, a fluke good season or a fluke good knock. It's been able to, back things up and back it up.
Awesome. Now, you've mentioned you're going to go to England. What's the next 12 months and beyond hold for you, do you think? What's the plans and what's the goals for you?
Oh, look, I'd still want to play for Australia. That's a huge goal of mine. I'm 26 next week, so time's skipping away from me. But going to England, I want to just get some time in the middle, and then make sure when I come back, I'm ready to hit the ground running at state level, and focus on playing cricket for WA. And I know if I just have fun playing for WA, anything's possible. Awesome.
Now, finally, why do you play cricket?
Look, it's a really good job. I'm very lucky. I used to, always dreamed about playing cricket as a living, and what's not to like? You get to go to the whack every day. All my best mates are there. You talk crap. You get to, you work hard. You're working hard with your mates, and that feeling of winning whatever level you play. And you're sitting in the change rooms after with your mates. It's a really good feeling, and that's definitely one that, talking to guys that have retired, that's the one feeling they miss, is sitting in the change rooms after a win.
Absolutely, and that seems the common theme. It's always about celebrating with your mates. So, finally, how can our followers, our listeners, our viewers, how can they follow you? What sort of social channels can they follow your journey on?
Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Been pretty quiet lately because I haven't been up to much, but definitely through that, and that's about it really.
All right, well, we'll put a link to that in our show notes. But Whitey, thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
On the process of success. We wish you the best of luck for your time in England, and then getting back into the state team here, and then beyond. Hopefully we see you in Australian colours in the near future.
Beautiful, thanks mate.
Thanks mate.